will be relieved to hear, and others will be sorry, that it is now 9 o'clock, and that is the time that is allowed for us to be here. Doing well. Okay, if you are prepared to stay for another half hour, there's a question from Tony Sullivan.
Thank you, Margaret. And thank you, Keith, as well. Which of the various bits of Barnet that have been outsourced to the private sector are the ripest to be taken back into direct local authority control?
I think, Alison, we should start with you on that one.
Oh, well, there's a question and a half. I have to say that one of the reasons I put down an item that did find its way onto the first of the performance committees was relating to the performance of the parking contract. And parking has been a huge problem in Barnet over the last several years, and it was one of the challenges, I think, for many people when they were voting in the elections, because actually parking had become a thorn in everyone's side. And therefore, when the contract is coming up for renewal, I think the council will need to look very hard about whether the way it's being run and managed at the moment is the right way to do it. And there is an opportunity to look certainly at bringing that back in-house.
And when is that coming up?
It's got another year to go. A year and a bit to go.
I was going to say 2 years, should we set on 18 months?
Okay. Well, you said it was
soon.
Richard, what was your answer about that lady from Fortune, from Fortune? And whether that was going to be dealt with before the rest of the borough or what? You weren't speaking into your microphone, and I've been going nuts trying to get to the bottom of what was actually said.
Could you leave the pen to answer the questions rather than keep interrupting, please?
No, sorry.
Could you please leave the pen to answer the questions?
Okay, that was to do with talking.
Richard, do you want to answer about ripeness to come back in-house?
Ripeness to come back in-house, I don't know at the moment. I would have thought that the parking contract is certainly a contract that needs to be looked at, to consider another provider or to bring it back in-house. I have no ideological problem with bringing things back in-house. It is sometimes much more difficult to reform a service that one operates directly than it is to have an outsourced contractor in place.
Right. Do you have something to say directly to this gentleman?
No, I've been caught with parking, but in all fairness, I've parked in other boroughs where I thought I was perfectly all right, read their signs, and it's been 130 quid or 60 quid, and I've simply paid up. I avoid parking in Barnet, frankly, if I can possibly park on the allotments or somewhere, but I won't be caught. I've paid fine.
So do you think they're right for coming back in-house?
No, the money that is collected through the fines and through the fines and the parking charges, one can argue about whether one puts a coin in or use the telephone. I can't do that. I get the scratch cards that I found very easy. Buy them in the library. The scratch cards. I can understand that. But I can't get through with a mobile phone. I simply tried once for fun. Press this button. Press this button. So, in other words,
with NSL,
it's people who collect fines or go around putting penalties on people are going to be unpopular, even if it's only for 4pence, as it's a few quid, of course, even more unpopular. It's one of the things which people thoroughly dislike. I don't know how to find anybody to do the work.
I don't think we're worried about their popularity, we're worried about their efficiency.
Oh, their efficiency. Well, they're efficient at putting penalty things on, yes. The money goes towards mending the roads. It's a kind of it's ring-fenced. They repair the potholes, they keep the services going, and there is more money now because it's been voted in. Dean Byrne, you know, credit where due. Well, you go then, yeah, whatever you like. There's one thing. The Spanish have a saying: "Los toros desde la barrera." The bulls from behind the fence or out there with the bull. Well, we're out with the bulls, you're behind the fence looking on, so it's not dangerous. But the money, no, sorry, whatever one does with parking, which was meant originally to keep traffic moving, then of course it becomes a little earner, then it becomes a bigger earner. So the money...
Yes, the problem with this earning is that they often have to lose the money they're trying to collect because the tickets are judged unfair.
Ah, well,
And they're
yes.
not only losing the ticket money, they're losing the appeal money. I'm sorry, Tony.
Okay, that's all right.
May I come back? I'm sorry, Mr. Rose.
No, I'll come after you.
Thank you. We've had three answers about parking. There's been no mention about a calamitous situation regarding an organisation known as Your Choice Barnet. This was set up just over 2 years ago to make profit out of learning disabled and other disabled adults using day centres. And there has been a huge outcry, which I'm sure certain members of the panel are aware of. A, about the morality of it, and B, about the financial disaster that it has already proven to be. And I personally would have thought that this was a prime case for an organisation to be brought back under local authority control. My fear is that because it's failing, it might be moved to, dare we use the word, capital, which would be an even greater disaster. A huge amount of damage has been done to the organisation already. The care staff narrowly averted a strike. Talks are still going on between Your Choice Barnet and if you want an example, as I said before, of a complete disaster, you don't have to look beyond Your Choice Barnet.
Absolutely.
Aubrey, did you want to get in on this?
Well, I don't know the detail of that, but I must confess a prejudice. I have a prejudice against outsourcing. It's a prejudice. I feel that if a council has an employee, somebody of the council, in whatever, whether it's planning, or my daughter worked for planning in Barnet once, or if it was education or something else, and a member of the public has a problem, you go to the council. And the council has a person there who's employed and respond. What you're going to get now is you go to an outside body who are there for making a profit. They're not there for service, they're there for making a profit. So I do have a prejudice on that. I had the crazy idea coming here on outsourcing. What would happen if the Army, Navy and Air Force outsourced their crazy idea?
They have.
Crazy idea, but no, on the real fighting business. It's a crazy idea. But I am prejudiced against, I've had dealings with Barnet Council in my professional capacity over a number of years. And I've had the pleasure of dealing with individuals in the council. And they have the responsibility, they have the councillors they can go to, they have their committees. And I know where the buck stops. And that is why I have this confession as to a prejudice I
We all feel like that.
Absolutely. I mean, and I start by saying, like Aubrey, my first choice, my first commitment is to public service and council, and I see that as democratically accountable services, and I've said that on many occasions. Your Choice Barnet is a real challenge. It was outsourced to Barnet Homes as it was became Barnet Group, and arguably underfunded when it went. And I think that's been hugely problematic for that organisation.
I take out the word arguably.
Yeah, well, fine. I will take out the word arguably. And currently, of course, there's a strike on hold, and been working with individuals around that. However, one of the challenges around bringing it back in, bringing back in-house, is given the cuts proposed by the current administration, I would genuinely worry about the fate of those services at this present time. And in the first instance, I want to work, I will put my efforts into working with Barnet Group to see if we can actually drive and improve the situation. Now, I know that that's a challenge, and I'm not underestimating the degree of that challenge. But I am genuinely worried about the difficulty of bringing it back in-house and the potential for increased cuts as part of that, because I don't think it's necessarily a magic wand, and we can talk elsewhere about it. The comments are made very genuinely, and we have spent quite a lot of time discussing it among our group and with Barnet Group and with the unions as well.
I just want to raise, I don't know if it's a legal question, but I wonder if anyone could say who is the principal benefiter of Your Choice Barnet. And, you know, who is it supposed to be raising a profit for?
You didn't make any profits.
No, it was as well, as it were, but it was premised when it was started was that it should be making profit. So I'd like to know who owns the company and who is it supposed to be making a profit for?
Ultimately, the people of Barnet.
Or would you actually like to say the London Borough of Barnet is the sole shareholder of a company it has created, which is a total disaster?
Absolutely.
And some solicitors, I have heard, even argue that it is not possible to disregard Your Choice Barnet and the London Borough of Barnet as two separate entities, even if by legal argument you think you can.
I was given an assurance by Don Wakely the other day that Your Choice Barnet is solely owned by London Borough of Barnet and they're got the responsibility.
So it's a very strange kind of outsourcing. Very strange.
Anybody else want to speak?
How can you sit there, Richard, and say it's failing, as if it's something that's nothing to do with you?
Well, it's
Surely.
not. Of course it's being worked on. Of course it's being worked on to get that.
The business model was invented by our millions and millions and millions of pounds billing private consultants, non-Barnet architects. It's a flawed business model. Yes, it was. They created the business model, which was flawed. How can you make profit out of care? Why should you make profit out of care? And it's supposed to subsidise Barnet homes. How can that possibly work? A child of 3 could see that's not going to work. And yet, even though we're not supposed to subsidise things, and people are supposed to look after themselves, and it's market forces and the rest of it, we, the taxpayers, have to bail out Your Choice Barnet. Why? To save you face, admitting that you've made a mistake. And what an expensive mistake in terms of the impact on the users and their families.
The money has been gone to look after the people who are...
It has not. It has not.
Ultimately it has, yes.
And now you're expecting the staff to take practically 10% cuts in their already low paid wages. How can that be justified?
And
in a moral
you
sense,
explain to
apart from anything else?
George why his children cannot go to community space on a Friday, why it is closed on a Friday, or to the people of Bills why they cannot use their day centre. You explain it to them. Their services are deteriorating, and there is nobody who uses them who is prepared to say otherwise.
I think you should take the opportunity now that you're having negotiation with Unison to bring the parent hierarchy of Your Choice Barnet and get involved. Not with rushing and get an agreement with the union without involving the parents. Scrap the whole thing or take as long as take more than a month, take 6 months and sort it out once and for all. Because it's an absolute disgrace.
It has to be sorted out.
It is crucial that parents and carers
I am a Barnet householder, and I have had one dealing with the council. I phoned because of a wheelie bin, which was left on my doorstep, broken. It turned out that I'd spoke to someone in Cardiff. Didn't worry me, I was on the telephone. I had a new wheelie bin in 4 days from City Hill. I'm not looking for better service than that. That is only my experience. But I would like to stress it, because I feel that so much bitterness seems to be here today. I can't get over how venomous some people can be. And I'm sorry to hear it. Everything can be explained, and I'm sure our panel will be able to do this in a very much softer approach.
Well, can they softly explain
And I can
what
bet you
Janet Leafer
I'll take it back.
and George were asking about? Can you softly explain how Your Choice Barnet is letting down people it's supposed to be caring for?
I don't believe it is letting down the people it is supposed to be caring for at the moment. I don't believe that. But clearly the financial
Why are the
model-
services closed? Why are the services closed on 1 day a week when they weren't before?
Some
What do
services-
those people
Some
do?
services will close and some services will change. That's the nature of life, that things change.
Okay, so you tell George whose 2 children are practically wheelchair bound, can hardly move, have so much illnesses that most people couldn't cope with that. He and his wife are coping with that on a daily basis, and the most important thing to them is for their children to get out and about and be with other people, and the community space offers that, and you are closing that service on 1 day a week.
But the children go there, I think.
They took over.
On their own, because no one else is allowed in
Because
there.
well,
But
I'm not,
everybody else
I
can't
think
go
we're
there.
straying onto a personal case that I don't want to get onto. But you know, in this instance, the organisation has bent over backwards to help.
This is not just about George's children, it is about...
But you made it about.
Because he's here, he can speak up, and I have the other parents aren't here, what can I do? The reason they're not here, and they can't speak up, is because they're looking at home, totally exhausted, looking after their very, very vulnerable adult children.
Thank you.
I had a letter the other day from Your Choice Barnet, signed by a lady. She's business intelligence manager. What's that? What connection has it got with, business intelligence manager? Do we need a position like that? Probably on 67,000 pounds a year?
I have no idea what the title means. It's exactly the title. The title should be informative, and the old titles are usually better.
We can't go on and on, but can I, as I said earlier, what negotiations going on with the union? Before the negotiations are finalized, can you to parents like Tony, myself, and the rest of the community who are children there and come up with a solution which is going to last for years and years, not just a temporary solution.
That would be the idea.
We're
The
not,
ideal is
we're not making a war,
Right.
just sex. We want justice. Thanks.
Is there anybody else who wants to have a say? Because I think I'm talking.
We have observed over the last 30 years a continuing widening of the gap of inequality in this country. People's wages have eroded considerably, especially over the last 10 to 15 years. Those at the bottom are generally accepted to be fruit pickers and carers. The idea that my local council is complicit in cutting the wages of the least well-paid people in the town it's abhorrent and dismaying.
They are not the least well paid in this instance.
No, the volunteers.
Compared to what? Compared to what? Compared to what?
Carers are not the lowest.
No, the particular carers, the particular people who are working.
How much do they actually remind us? No, how do you know then?
Not a living wage.
Would you do their job for that rate of pay? Would you do somebody's personal care?
That would not be my chosen career now.
Well, perhaps they don't have much of a choice.
Carers in this country are paid technically less than the lowest amount of money because of 0-hour contracts, and has already been said here today, they get no money for when they are travelling to or from, only when they're working. There is nobody else in this borough that I can think of that actually takes home less money for doing a hard day's work. You are wrong to say it.
Okay, gentleman in the back. Sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm a care worker. I get paid probably under £7 an hour. I don't get, like Poppy said, I don't get paid in between hours. It suits me because I can, and I stay with friends and I stay in various places. But for anyone that had to pay rent, pay food, pay bills, I don't know how they would do it. It's an incredibly hard job and an incredibly low-paid job. And if the council is complicit in cutting people's wages with that, then I'm with Poppy. That is abhorrent.
Right.
Sorry, what was that, Richard?
If it's £7 an hour and it's being cut, of course it is.
That's because it's
Well,
that's because it's a private company. That's why. Because it's
Support the strikers.
That's why they're striking.
It is.
It's not
By
much
10%.
more.
10%.
And they have to pay the most vulnerable people. I mean, my father was cared for by people on very, very low wages, and that demoralises people. And that's where you get, unfortunately, it's things like Winterbourne View and so on, where you have a low standard of care, potentially, but would demoralise staff. If you value the people that have to be cared for, then why not pay them a decent wage to do a decent job?
a living wage.
Sorry.
Yes. Why is it the workers that are selected for the 10% cut and not the management? Because they need a haircut.
Actually, my understanding is that collectively it is right way across the board.
Up to the
And not as far as I'm aware of.
No, directors on those six-figure salaries will not be
Alison,
taken.
excuse me, I think most of the top management of Your Choice Barnet, they're also top management of Barnet Homes, and I guess something like 70% of their income is from Barnet Homes, where there is no such cut. Therefore, taking a 10% cut on the remaining 25% isn't such a big deal.
And I'm not defending the decision, but my understanding was that it was across a whole range of grades, and that was something that was argued through. I wasn't there, I'm not part of the board. I can only report what has been discussed, and we were certainly discussing that with the unions as part of an ongoing set of discussion. But I'm not an apologist for it because I've not been directly involved.
Right, it is time to call a close. I'd like to say that this is the kind of meeting that proves the value of democracy, of people being able to say what they want, however unpleasant other people might find it, and it goes for people who were on one side and the other, not particularly wanting to hear the other, but this is what it is about. And it's a shame that there aren't more places like this, but we should be very grateful, I think, to Keith and to Friern Barnet Community Library for offering evenings like this where we can come together and air our opinions. We can only hope that the people to whom we're airing them have taken note. Keith?
May I reiterate my thanks to the panel and everybody for coming. I think we've had a really good evening. Two just announcements. This is a fundraising event, and we've raised £165 for Friern Barnet Library, so thanks all for coming and doing that, and thank you all for the team who helped put it on. The next Any Questions will be on Friday the 18th of July, when so far I've got 2 people on the panel. I'm delighted that 4 behind the counter there. He says he's a care worker. He was one of the squatters who reopened this library on the 5th of September. And also we've got John Plews, who is the manager of the theatre upstairs at the Gatehouse in Highgate, and I'm working on the other 2.